In the quiet, winding streets of the Hollywood Hills, the air is usually filled with the scent of jasmine and the hum of luxury engines. It is a place designed for the elite, a sanctuary of $20,000 a month rentals and steel-gated privacy. But in the late summer of 2025, that sanctuary became the center of a forensic crisis that would send shockwaves through the global music industry. It began with a black Tesla. To any passerby, it was just another high-end vehicle parked along Bluebird Avenue. But as the weeks stretched into a month, the car became a fixture of neglect. It gathered dust, it gathered parking citations, and eventually, it began to emit an unsettling, heavy odor that no amount of ocean breeze could mask. When the vehicle was finally towed on September 8th, workers at a nearby lot made a discovery so grim, so profoundly disturbing, that it immediately transitioned from a parking violation to a high-stakes criminal investigation. Tucked away in the front trunk, the area often referred to as the frunk, were the severely compromised remains of a young girl. The discovery was made just one day after what would have been her 15th birthday. Her name was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was a middle schooler, a daughter of immigrants, and someone who had spent the last year of her life caught in a digital web that stretched from her modest home in Lake Elsinore all the way to the heights of Hollywood glamour. But the story doesn't start at the tow yard. It starts years earlier, in the digital shadows of a Discord server. This was the space where Celeste, known by the username #1fan, first crossed paths with a rising star. David Burke, the artist the world knows as D4VD, was a musician on the verge of total superstardom. His tracks were the anthem of a generation, often exploring themes of heartbreak and romantic homicide. To his millions of followers, he was an idol. To 12-year-old Celeste, he was a bridge to a world more exciting than her own. But investigators now allege that this bridge was actually a trap. As we begin this deep dive into the 40 terabytes of evidence currently held by the Los Angeles District Attorney, we have to ask, how does a fan go from a chat room to a headline? And how did a global tour continue for months while a devastating secret sat cooling in a luxury vehicle? The prosecution is now moving forward with a legal theory that is as rare as it is severe: lying in wait. They aren't just alleging a loss of life. They are alleging a calculated, pre-planned event designed to protect a lucrative career. As we peel back the layers of this investigation, we find a story of matching tattoos that whispered for silence, a song crisis that took a dark turn, and a family left to pick up the pieces of a birthday that never came. This is the complete, investigative breakdown of the case that changed how we look at the stars. The story of Celeste Rivas Hernandez doesn't begin in the Hollywood Hills. It begins in the quiet residential sprawl of Lake Elsinore, California, a world away from the neon lights of the Sunset Strip. To her family, Celeste was a vibrant 14-year-old middle schooler who loved music and dance. But beneath the surface of a normal suburban life, a digital bridge was being built that would eventually lead her 70 miles away from home. Investigators traced the origins of this connection back to 2022. It was in the digital halls of a Discord server dedicated to the artist D4VD where Celeste, then just 14 years old, first became a known presence. Under the username #1fan, she was more than just a listener. She was a participant in a growing community centered around a rising icon. In that space, other users allegedly began to notice a specific closeness, with some even referring to her as the artist's girlfriend, long before the general public knew her name. By April 2024, the situation at home in Lake Elsinore had reached a breaking point. Celeste's mother reported her missing, the first of 3 such reports filed with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office in a single year. While the official designation was that of a runaway, the reality was far more complex. Neighbors remember the missing person flyers that papered the town, showing the face of a young girl who seemed to have simply vanished into thin air. Yet, Celeste wasn't entirely gone. During these periods of absence, she reportedly told her family about a boyfriend named David. It was a name that carried a heavy weight, though at the time, its significance remained hidden. Even more striking was a permanent vow they allegedly shared, a matching tattoo on their index fingers that read, "To the outside world, it might have looked like a quirky fan tribute." But in the context of what was to come, prosecutors view it as a chilling command, a literal mark of silence. While Celeste's family searched for her, the digital trail she left behind told a story of a life lived in the orbit of a celebrity. Surveillance footage and digital pings placed her in various locations throughout late 2024 and early 2025, suggesting she was alive but deeply isolated from her former life. Perhaps the most eerie moment in this timeline occurred in August 2024. Inside that same Discord server, David Burke reportedly posted that he was experiencing a song crisis, a bout of writer's block. Amidst the flurry of fan responses, one anonymous user posted a haunting suggestion: drop the one with the missing girl, Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The chat continued to move, fans continued to speculate, but from the artist's side, there was only silence. No denial, no questions, just a void. It is moments like these that have led investigators to look past the glitz of the Withered World Tour and toward the 40 terabytes of data that they say reveal a far more calculated reality. As we move into the spring of 2025, the digital trail begins to narrow, leading directly to the front door of a $20,000 a month rental in the hills, and the final time Celeste would ever be seen alive. The spring of 2025 was supposed to be the crowning moment of a meteoric career. On April 11th, David Burke took the stage at Coachella, a performance that solidified his status as the voice of a new generation. During interviews at the festival, he spoke about the poetic and beautiful bond he shared with his fans, famously stating, "I am my fans and my fans are me." But while the world watched him perform under the desert lights, a much darker reality was allegedly unfolding behind the scenes. Just 12 days after that Coachella debut, the digital trail for Celeste Rivas Hernandez went cold. According to the criminal complaint, April 23, 2025, was the last day she was known to be alive. Prosecutors allege that on this day, Celeste arrived at the Hollywood Hills rental at David's invitation. They aren't characterizing this as a random meeting. They are calling it lying in wait. In the eyes of the law, this suggests a controlled environment where the victim felt safe, unaware that the situation had been prearranged with a grim purpose. What was that purpose? The district attorney's office has been blunt. It was a matter of professional survival. They allege that Celeste had reached a point where she was ready to speak out about the nature of their relationship. A relationship that investigators say began when she was just 13. To a rising star with major label backing and a global tour on the horizon, such a revelation would be more than a scandal. It would be a total career collapse. Evidence recently brought to light suggests that the period following that April date was one of calculated silence. While the artist's debut album Withered was being released to critical acclaim, forensic specialists believe the unthinkable was happening inside that luxury home. One of the most haunting charges in the filing is unlawful mutilation, with prosecutors alleging that a sharp instrument was used on or around May 5, nearly 2 weeks after Celeste was last heard from. As the summer progressed, the artist moved forward with his professional obligations, launching a world tour and even collaborating on high-profile video game anthems. Meanwhile, a black Tesla remained parked on a quiet residential street, acting as a grim vessel for a secret that was slowly being revealed by the passage of time. Investigators are now working through 40 terabytes of data, a digital archive that reportedly includes photos, wiretap recordings, and a significant amount of unauthorized material recovered from personal devices. This massive volume of evidence is expected to form the backbone of the prosecution's case, painting a picture of a life lived in two halves, one under the spotlight of global fame, and the other in the deep shadows of a devastating cover-up. The narrative being built in the courtroom isn't just about a single night. It's about the months of silence that followed, and the length someone might go to keep the music playing. By April 2026, exactly 1 year after Celeste Rivas Hernandez was last seen alive, the silence that had defined this case finally shattered. On April 22nd, following months of legal deadlock, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner was finally permitted to unseal the autopsy report. The findings were a sobering confirmation of the gravity of this investigation. The report concluded that Celeste's life was ended by multiple penetrating injuries to her upper body. Wounds so specific and significant that they were immediately classified as a homicide. Despite the extensive passage of time and the natural degradation of the evidence, forensic experts were able to identify that these injuries affected vital organs, including the liver. Even more telling was the condition of the clothing recovered at the scene, which bore the marks of the same sharp force that took her life. The unsealing of these details coincided with a pivotal week in court. David Burke, appearing in an orange inmate jumpsuit and shackles, sat silently as prosecutors from the district attorney's office began to lay out the staggering scope of their digital evidence. While the 40 terabytes of data previously mentioned had already hinted at a deep archive, Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman introduced a new, high-stakes element to the case: the contents of Burke's personal iCloud and mobile devices. Prosecutors alleged in open court that these devices contained a significant amount of unauthorized and highly sensitive material involving minors. This revelation adds a profound layer of legal complexity to the murder charge, as it speaks directly to the pattern of behavior investigators have been tracking since 2022. As the legal teams prepare for a preliminary hearing set to begin on May 1, 2026, the strategy on both sides is becoming clear. The defense, led by attorney Blair Burke, maintains that David Burke is not responsible for the loss of life and is pushing for an expedited process to challenge the prosecution's narrative. Meanwhile, the district attorney is leaning heavily on the lying in wait and financial gain special circumstances, arguing that this was a crime committed not out of passion, but out of a cold calculation to preserve a global brand. For the community of Lake Elsinore and for Celeste's family, the release of the autopsy and the start of these hearings represent a painful but necessary step toward clarity. They recently shared a rare public statement, describing Celeste as a beautiful, strong girl who loved Friday night movies and dancing, a stark contrast to the clinical and grim details currently filling the headlines. As we look toward the May 1st hearing, the world is waiting to see which version of the story the evidence will support. Is it the story of a rising star who lost his way, or a much darker tale of a career protected at any cost? The answers are buried within those 40 terabytes, and for the first time, they are finally coming into the light. As the legal machinery grinds forward, the focus has shifted from the what to the how. How did a world-renowned artist, under the constant surveillance of managers, fans, and security, manage to maintain such a devastating secret for so long? To find the answer, investigators are looking closely at the structure of the music industry itself, a world where the line between a performer and their persona can become dangerously blurred. The prosecution's argument for financial gain as a special circumstance is a rare and aggressive move. By making this claim, they are asserting that the motive was the preservation of a multi-million-dollar asset. In this case, that asset was the brand. They point to the digital communications and the matching symbols as evidence that there was an awareness of a developing scandal that could not be allowed to break. This wasn't just a personal matter. In the eyes of the law, it is being presented as a choice made with the most extreme and final consequences. Meanwhile, the defense is preparing to challenge the timeline. They are questioning the reliability of the digital pings and the exact moment the vehicle was left on Bluebird Avenue. Their goal is to introduce reasonable doubt into the allegation of lying in wait. If they can argue that the meeting at the Hollywood Hills home wasn't part of a pre-planned event, they can potentially alter the trajectory of the sentencing. They are painting a picture of a young man who was overwhelmed by the pressures of sudden fame, though they have yet to offer a formal alternative explanation for the discovery made by the tow yard workers. The atmosphere in the Los Angeles courthouse is heavy with the weight of the digital age. The 40 terabytes of evidence serve as a digital black box, recording every message, every location, and every deleted file from the months leading up to the arrest. As forensic analysts prepare to testify, we are seeing a new frontier in investigative reporting, where the most critical witnesses are not just people, but the cloud servers and encrypted logs that track our every move. But beyond the legal jargon and the technical data, there is a 14-year-old girl whose voice was silenced just as it was beginning to find its strength. Celeste Rivas Hernandez has become more than a name in a case file. She has become a symbol of the vulnerability inherent in the modern idol fan dynamic. Her family continues to attend every hearing, standing as a quiet, somber reminder of the human cost at the heart of this media storm. As we await the full commencement of the trial, the industry is facing its own reckoning. There are hard questions being asked about the responsibility of those in power to vet the environments created for artists and their young supporters. For now, the world remains in a state of suspension, waiting for the moment the vow of silence is finally broken for good in a court of law. The truth is no longer a secret kept in the shadows. It is a narrative being pieced together, frame by frame, bite by bite, until justice is the only thing left standing. The final chapter of this investigation brings us to the present moment, a tense standoff between a global superstar's legacy and the cold, hard facts of a forensic file. As David Burke remains in a high-security cell at the men's central jail, the music world is forced to look at his lyrics through a new, much more literal lens. Songs that were once praised for their moody, fictionalized angst are now being scrutinized by investigators for potential echoes of the reality they say he was living. Behind the scenes, the search for a second person of interest remains an active part of the inquiry. Early in the investigation, the lab suggested that moving and concealing a secret of this magnitude may have required assistance. They have been looking closely at a trip David took to Santa Barbara in the spring of 2025, as well as the logs of his management team. Was there anyone else who saw the white Tesla sitting for 40 days and nights? Was there anyone who helped facilitate the move from the luxury house to the vehicle? These questions remain the X factor that could either broaden the scope of the charges or provide the defense with a narrow path to deflect responsibility. The vow of silence that Celeste and David allegedly shared through their matching ink has become the central metaphor of this trial. To the prosecution, it was a brand of ownership and a promise of secrecy. But to the public, it has become a rallying cry for transparency. This case has sparked a nationwide movement calling for stricter duty of care laws for social media platforms and music labels, aiming to protect young fans from the inherent power imbalances of digital stardom. As we move toward the May 1st preliminary hearing, the 40 terabytes of evidence are being prepared for public viewing that will likely be one of the most watched legal events of the decade. We expect to see the timeline of the iCloud data, the GPS coordinates of the Tesla, and the testimony of the tow yard workers who first broke the silence on Bluebird Avenue. For the family of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, no amount of digital evidence or legal triumph can replace the girl who loved to sing and dance. They have stated that their only goal is for Celeste's voice to be heard, not as a #1 fan, but as a young woman who deserved a future. As this trial begins, her story serves as a devastating reminder that in the age of digital connection, the most dangerous shadows are often the ones hiding in plain sight, illuminated by the glow of a smartphone screen. The music has stopped, the lights have dimmed, and now, for the first time, the truth is about to take the stage. The legal implications of this case extend far beyond a single courtroom in Los Angeles. Legal experts are calling the prosecution's strategy a forensic blueprint for the future of digital prosecution. By moving forward with financial gain and lying in wait as the twin pillars of their argument, the district attorney is attempting to bridge the gap between ancient legal doctrines and modern celebrity culture. They are arguing that in 2026, a public image is a tangible asset, one that someone might go to unthinkable lengths to protect. While the defense continues to advocate for a presumption of innocence, the social fallout has already reached a tipping point. Major streaming platforms have begun quietly removing the artist's discography from featured playlists, and his once booming Discord community has become a digital ghost town, moderated by legal teams and law enforcement. The industry is watching closely, knowing that the outcome of this trial could lead to a massive shift in how labels manage the private lives and digital interactions of their high-value talent. The 40 terabytes of data represent more than just a trail of evidence. They represent a year of a life stolen. Forensic data recovery has allowed investigators to reconstruct Celeste's final days with terrifying precision. Pings from smart home devices, cellular tower handoffs, and even the automated logs of the luxury vehicle itself. This digital testimony is expected to be the most reliable witness in the room, immune to the pressures of fame or the lapses of human memory. As the community prepares for the May 1st hearing, a memorial has grown outside the tow yard where the discovery was made. It is a sea of white flowers, handwritten notes, and photos of a girl who had her whole life ahead of her. It stands as a stark contrast to the cold, industrial setting of the men's central jail where the accused now sits. The luxury rentals, the world tours, and the viral hits have all faded into the background, leaving behind only the pursuit of accountability. We have followed this story from the first missing persons report in Lake Elsinore to the bombshell arrests in the Hollywood Hills. We have looked at the matching tattoos, the song crisis logs, and the staggering weight of the forensic evidence. Now, as the gavel prepares to fall, the focus remains where it belongs, on the memory of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Her story is a tragedy, a warning, and a demand for a safer digital world. Whatever happens next in that courtroom, the silence has been broken, and the truth will finally be given its day. This concludes our deep dive investigation into one of the most high-profile and disturbing cases of our time. Stay tuned to True Crime Syndicate as we provide live updates from the preliminary hearings and the trial that follows. We will be there every step of the way until justice is served for Celeste.